We are getting ready to start worship at 8 a.m. I'm going handheld this morning. I wanted to share with you a little bit about what it's like to be a delegate. But first, and before I do that, I just want to let you know our agenda for the day. So we begin with worship at 8 a.m. and we're scheduled to move to plenary at 9 a.m. This morning, we'll be celebrating our missionaries. When we move to calendared items, the item that is anticipated to come first is paragraph 161 in this and 162 in the social principles. And this includes the incompatibility language. It is the OG incompatibility language. It is what started it all. It does not have practical effect in the way that restrictions added later do. It's not enforceable, which is why language was added in other paragraphs. As I mentioned in an earlier video, the language has become kind of like a cancer infecting different sections. That has been being gradually rolled back. This is not the last piece of restrictive language that General Conference needs to deal with. So we're still doing the work, but it is likely to be a difficult debate. And if you are watching from home, please know you don't have to listen to it. Please care for yourself as we move through debate. It is anticipated that the votes exist, that we have the votes to remove the language. But we have to go through the process to be there, and it may be painful to get to that point. And so please care for yourself as we get through this. Know that delegates are holding this work. We are seeking to be strategic to get to the end point of removal of the language. But please just care for yourself in the midst of this. If you're watching, if you're here in person, if you need to step out, if you need to put whatever you need to do, remember that at base without amendments, we're talking 6 minutes of speeches against removal. 3 speeches for, 3 speeches against. So please just care for yourself in the way that you need to. And please know we are very optimistic, especially given what we know about the coalition here and what we know about what's happened already, that we will get the language removed. But there may be unpleasant moments as we get there. I wanted to share a little bit about, and then the rest of the day, the agenda, we go to lunch, we break for lunch, we come back, we go till 6:30. I want to share a little bit about what it's like to be a delegate. The first is a lot of delegates, myself included, are dragging this morning. We've held in pretty well, but it has caught up with us. We've been here around 2 weeks, some a little bit less than that. As a delegate, you have very little control over your day, over your schedule, your in sessions. When you're in session, there's not really off time when you go to meals. For delegates that are eating here, you're talking with other folks, you're interacting with folks. I want to show very briefly behind me. So this is one of the hallways. You can see some gatherings of persons. And these are delegations from particular annual conferences that meet here. Some delegations meet every day. Some delegations meet intermittently. Our delegation meets intermittently, usually not in the morning first thing. And so delegations often meet to report and share with each other their experiences. And certainly as we move through legislation, delegations would have had people on different legislative committees. And so the person on your delegation from a particular legislative committee is the person who is likely best able to track the legislation that came through that committee. And so it's helpful as a delegation to say, okay, what's coming up? What happened in this committee? I know I've done that. We've had those discussions. When this piece came to committee, why did the committee vote this way? Help me understand. Help me so that we're all really well informed. And so delegations can really serve in that way. As delegates, we're sharing snacks. We're trying to make sure we're staying hydrated. I knew and understood from folks who'd been seated delegates before that you really have to focus on the work in front of you. So I guess it's not surprising, but it is virtually impossible. I find it virtually impossible to do much else other than sitting there. You have to track constantly what is happening. If you get distracted for a minute, even if you're doing work looking at a piece of legislation, like you're doing general conference work, if your attention comes off of what's happening for a minute or two, you can completely lose your place because it is constant. There's no there's no ebb and flow to our days. I don't find when I'm, working, I can, days are different. I can pace myself differently. If I need to slow down a day, there's none of that here. We are all running on the same pace. If you want to wake up really early or stay up really late, then you can have some of that time, but we also need to get sleep. So it really is a mental and physical and emotional marathon that we're on. It really is a marathon. But we're coming towards the end of it. So we just have today and tomorrow to finish this work in front of us. With the bundle yesterday of petitions, that is feeling a little bit more practical, but we still have a lot of important work to do. Again, especially as we continue those last pieces of removal of restrictive language. So care for yourself today. If you're watching, please do what you need to do. Know that the delegates here, we are focused on the end goal and very hopeful and optimistic that we will be able to get there. And also keep in mind as we move through debates that we're also very focused on trying to make sure that the things that come out of General Conference make it as easy as possible for the ratification of regionalization globally. And so that means that as the U.S. Church, we want to lean into general church stances and policies that truly are global. So we really want to be able to make it to support that global vote for ratification, which is such an important piece globally for us, but also in the United States. So have a good day, and I'm excited to see